Welcome to self-discoverywisdom.com, formerly known as Self-Discovery Media. On these podcasts, you're going to hear people who speak from the heart. They've taken the journey in life. Many things have happened to them, but they've changed it to happening for them. And in their strength, their courage, they've discovered their abilities and their wisdom, and they are now sharing it here with you. Do enjoy each show. We bring it to you with love and knowing that it's going to help you on your journey of life. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of An Author's Kiss, right here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy. My wonderful guest today is Donna Knutson. Are you wanting to write your book, tell your story? Has somebody been nagging at you for a long time? Mom, put it down. Or, why don't you share that? How are you writing it down? And, we kind of look at it and go, it's intimidating. Oh, I don't know who would be interested. Or I've got a whole load of stories there, but I don't know how to put it down. Well, she says write journals. This is all about how to write your journey. She can guide you on that path. And having just written my book, and I'm still in the editing stage, it isn't easy, folks. Don't think it's easy. I wrote it very, very quickly, but the editing side of it, the construction side of it, the chapter labeling side of it, all of that detail really requires somebody who knows what they're doing to guide you on your path, because it can get intimidating, confusing, and a little overloading. And she's there to help. She's not a publisher, but she's there to help you with the content. She says whether your story is a complicated draft or still in your head, she'll be delighted to guide you through the process of preparing your writing for publication. It's time to finish that book, and she wants to help. And she believes that everybody has a story inside of them, and I 100% agree. You may just need to get that support and organize your thoughts and stay on track. So how can she do this to help? She will use everything she's learned over her career as a journalist and educator to assist and encourage even the most hesitant writer towards completing their project. She's edited business books, children's books, young adult fantasy, and poetry, and she can help solidify your ideas, create a blueprint for your project, and work through the content and flow issues, providing advice on continuity, character, and book editing. She loves problem solving and about taking that moment where the author has an unresolved issue with their piece. It's satisfying to uncover those new possibilities in the work and allow the author to really feel their true voice and intention can shine through. Well, I 100% agree. And this is obviously why this particular show is called The Author's Kiss, because I've always said, it's like a good book or a good story is like a kiss. It's like an embrace. And whether it's somebody's memoir or just somebody kind of putting, a lot of people are writing fiction nowadays, taking fact of their life and fictionalizing it a bit. It doesn't matter which way you're telling it. It's just that we all have extraordinary stories, and we kind of think, well, it's not life this, or it's not that, and it's not as big as that person. But do not ever underestimate the small story and the impact that it can have on somebody that is reading it at that time, that relates to it, or is going through it, who just feels the story, or maybe it's encouraging to the person, or that inspiration that begets that invitation. Your story does matter. Welcome to the show, Donna.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me here. I'm very excited to talk about this because I just love working with people on their passion projects.
Mm. And I think that's the big word you said there, is that once you've got through all the excuses of why not to do it, and you step into the passion, then it becomes something, well, like, I have to get it out of me. It has to get out. But right now, it's like you've thrown, a whole load of puzzles up in the air, and you're hoping they're going to land as a perfect puzzle put together. And then right now it's the scattered pieces. What you do is help them put that puzzle together into a cohesive vision.
Yes, I run into many people who really want to tell their stories, but they're not writers, and it can be a little overwhelming. And they have a business and they have a thought process that they do, or a different way they want to reach out to their clients, and just where to start and how to make that connection happen, keep you on track. That's kind of the thing. I love to help people make that dream that they have of what that book can be come true. And I come from it from a place of, I learned when I was in graduate school, I learned that we would have these workshops and everybody would bring their work and everybody would start reading and you read and respond to the other person's work, right? People would catch up with me after class and ask me to read their work. And I realized it was because I get really thorough, but I'm
Yes.
really clear about what worked and what didn't work. It's not nasty, it's not mean. It's just this didn't make sense to me. Here's why. This might be
Yeah.
better. What did you think about this? Constructive ideas.
Mm,
And I loved that part.
mm.
So that's how I ended up doing this particular piece of work.
Well, again, it's I'm constantly saying this about humanity. The moment that we start investigating, inquiring, exploring, we've lost ourselves. The moment we become complacent over anything, we ferment and rot. We really need that. So when somebody is just as intriguing over your story as you are, the two passions meet, right? So you're able to see what it is they're trying to say and just help them put it in a cohesive order that is then engaging. But if you didn't have the passion for it, AI could do it. You need somebody who's got the heart and soul to understand what is being said rather than, just a generic thing, because there's too much generic out there. I know when I read certain things that it's just somebody else has written it, not the person that's representing. And, or, the site doesn't represent the person. And really what we want, all of us as human beings, is connection. So when you write a story that connects with someone, that is that invitation, you've got to be connected to them to help them be connected to others.
Right. And that's very clear. It's a very big difference. What I do is called developmental editing.
Mm,
People will say, do you do ghostwrite, which
yes.
would mean I would actually write the whole book. And I don't think that that lets the writer have their voice.
Hmm.
Your voice is so strong and unique for who you are, and you need to be the person putting your words on the page.
Yeah.
People need support, they need structure, they need guidance, and they need accountability. So you need the cheerleader who's going to tell you this is great. You need somebody to say, yeah, you had a rough week. Here's where we can pick up, and to help you through all those things personally as well. Because even the best writers, they have really tight relationships with their editors
Hmm.
because we
Yes.
write alone, right?
Yes. Yes.
How does your word speak to you? You just wrote it down. How does this speak to someone else? That could be very different.
Yeah. That is a very big point, having that relationship with your editor that gets you. I know that I spoke to many people about publishing my book and eventually of going self-publishing, but it was I'm a flow speaker, I'm a flow writer. I'm highly spiritual and I write very kind of cosmically. And I can't just hand this off to an editor that's just does generic editing. They're going to completely change it into their way of understanding it. So you need somebody that gets your language, that gets who you are as an identity, because all you want to do is enhance, tidy structure and build on that essence of who you are, not lose it in some generic form of editing. So that relationship between your editor and you, someone gets, I get what you're saying here. How about we change this? And then it has more flow, or it really brings about what it is you're trying to say. But if you're not in tuned with the person, then the game, we're looking for connection. That is a clear disconnect if you don't get even what they're trying to say.
What you say about relationship is so true. And I often have compared the relationship you have with your editor in a dating sense,
Mm.
right? You are not meant to date everyone.
It'd be
And
tiring.
even the nicest people, they might not be the right person for you to be hanging
Exactly.
out with.
Exactly.
So I try very hard when I start to do some work with the person so that we can see whether or not we're a good fit.
Mm.
This is important for a number of different reasons because as an editor, as a reader, you
Mm.
bring to the text your own personal experience. I'm sorry, but I would be a terrible person to do a novel about engineering, right? Or submarines. I don't have the background. I couldn't tell you
Right.
whether or not it was right or wrong what you were
Yes.
saying. I can't access that. But if you find someone who has the same understanding that you do and the background that you need to help you get through that,
Yeah.
that relationship is going to work.
You're the conductor. Like the characters and the scenery, the what, where, and how, and when, and everything are the instruments in the book, but you're the conductor and how to bring it together so that it has its, transcending moments and moments that come back down again, that it keeps it that flow. So as the conductor, if you don't understand what the musicians are doing, how the hell can you conduct, right? But when you're in sync with that, oh, this is where you can really bring that up more. You've played it down too much. Let's bring it up more into crescendo. And that needs to be toned down a bit. And it just helps that kind of piece of music, that piece of writing, follow again that flow. Everything in life has a rhythm. Every single thing. And when somebody reads, you want them to get rhythmic about it because, you want to have the story that is going to take them somewhere where they can't put that book down.
And music is such a great way to talk about what happens when you write because music we feel
Yes.
emotionally and writing is the same way. But if you're feeling a piece emotionally, you may love, like I love many different genres, but there's a
Yes.
couple of genres of music I don't understand.
Yes.
I don't
Punk
feel
rock?
that.
No, no. Heavy metal?
There are some parts of rock that I do really like. I don't understand screaming angry
Right.
metal. That
Yes.
I don't understand so
Yes.
well.
And who really wants to
But
read that? Especially a three
but
minute
there's
song may
always
get you
someone,
venting, but
right?
not a book. But
But there's always someone who can love a different genre. But in the same way, let's say I've listened recently to a lot of music from India.
mm,
I have
yeah.
no idea what they're saying
Right.
because I don't speak any of those languages,
Uh-huh.
but the tone of the singer's
Yes.
voice, the melody of the music, the emotion and the power behind it, it transcends the
Yes.
language and it
Yes.
really can touch you. So this is how you would need someone to understand that emotional journey that you want to go on with your work as well. If it's a technical piece, you're going to want somebody who also
Yes.
understands those technical pieces.
Yeah.
And so that's just something that I try really hard
Well, and a
to
lot of what you're
get straight.
touching on there is cultural. Like you
Yes.
can have somebody that is, Native American, African American, in Indo-American, and they may be American, or whatever other nationality in the world, but let's talk about America. They may be American, but the culture of what they were born into is going to have influence on the way they're going to present. So, as you said, like when you listen to the music from other cultures, you know what speaks to you or not. It's not, for me, like when I suffer from depression, when I get depression, I put music on. I'm not listening to words. It's actually the music has a way of resetting you frequently, rebalancing you. So when somebody can bring the essence of their culture, through the presence of where they are today, but bring that culture through that, it's again, it's not in their language or the culture's language, but it's bringing that language of their culture alive, isn't it?
Yes. And we're wanting words to do that on the page as well.
Mm.
Uh, a lot of times when people are new to writing, they're thinking about describing what they see because that's one of our strongest senses.
Yes.
But when we're children and we're trying to figure out what things are, we are tactile. That's why babies are always walking around putting things in their
Yes.
mouths
Yes.
because they need to know it, smell it, taste it, feel it to understand what it is.
Yeah.
And when we write, as we bring those pieces into what we are describing to people, we bring them closer and
Yeah.
into the experience personally.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people that have a lot of pain that they need to write about. And I know when I first said I was writing mine, somebody, oh, we're going to get the juices of all that happened to you. And I said, no, I am going to be speaking to what's happened to me, but it's more of who have I become because of it, right? Because we we can. we can hear the horrors. We can hear this has happened. This is how it made you feel and all of that. But we want to know that you rose above it, that you became something better because of it. We don't want to read about the pain over and over and over again because that can be very painful to read. So although a lot of people want to speak about it, at the same time is that make sure that you're not imposing that pain or using it as an avenue to release your pain, which is good, yes, but is that the part that you should publish or not? Right?
Right. And so much of that is in the initial conversations about what your dream is for the book
Yeah.
and who the person is that you're writing for. I do talk to people sometimes and I say, you should have an ideal reader. And they're like, an ideal reader? I want this book to appeal to everyone.
Yes.
And the truth of the matter is that the more crystal clear you can get
Yeah.
on your one ideal reader, the more you have the opportunity
Yeah.
to appeal to more people.
Yeah.
If you start trying to please
One size
everybody
fit all.
all at once,
Yeah.
you lose your focus. And when you lose
Yes.
your focus, your writing is suffering and you're not going to appeal to as many people. So I use movies as an example for that, right? Some of the popular movies over the past decade or so have been comic books.
Yes.
Comic books are made for mostly young men, teens to the 20s, but these movies have been successful with everyone.
Yes.
If your story is good, everyone will access it. And making your
Right.
story good means it has to have focus. So
Um,
that's a really helpful thing.
it's a huge point that you've made there because I'm not a comic reader. But I became a Marvel and an Avengers and all of that watcher, and we watch it for different reasons. But we always look for an identification in anything, even if it's something I wouldn't do, right? It's the kind of the inner hero of you that you wish that was doing, always doing in a different way. But it's always that hope, right? I mean, all of those comics and Marvel things, etc. You're facing the darkest and the deepest enemy of your life, but it's always that hope and how we can come together in our differences to face that mortal enemy. And that mortal enemy, I think, in the metaphor in life is complacency, is stepping back and doing nothing, is giving up, is just retreating and just not living, right? Living
Right.
can be hard, but at the same time, it is the purpose of life, but it also can be exuberant. And from those trials and tribulations, you truly find the nectar and the joy. So I can understand why they transcend that. And I think if you're writing for one size fits all, I guarantee you're not going to please anyone. The other thing is people say to me, who do you interview? I say, those that come from the heart. What they're doing, it comes from the heart. They want to make a difference in someone else's life because it comes from the heart. And that should be the same with the writing, shouldn't it?
It is, it definitely is. And I do think that it's one of the fun things is that I do get to work with people on what I say are their passion
Mm,
projects. People aren't lukewarm about what they're coming to me to write. They are
yeah.
excited to reach their clients, to tell their story. I tend to work with people who want to help and encourage and educate. So I do tend to get those helping people. And I will say that there are so many people who doubt whether or not
Mm,
their story is worthy. And what I would say is, my parents had both passed before, while I was in my 20s. So I
mm.
consider that early.
Yes.
And I would at this point, have given anything to have a book with their life
Yeah.
stories, with
Yes.
their wisdom into it. And that is the kind of thing I would hope that people would not look at their lives and think, no, but this isn't important to anyone, because it's invaluable if you had that kind of wisdom. If you had a book, you could read about your great grandparents and their lives and what they went through and what they overcame, would be amazing, an amazing gift.
Absolutely, because where we're in a society right now that wants to erase history, we are made up of our history of historical facts. Uh, some of them should never be. And by tearing everything down in our history to think that now it's going to be all right, we're going to do everything all right, is an illusion. What we have
Mhm.
to do is look at that history and understand why did they do what they did at that time,
Mhm.
right? It doesn't always make the person evil. It was the times. It's the same with ourselves in our lives. When we come across something and we go, our conscious rises and we go, I've been doing that all my life and I didn't realize the negative impact it had. I know better now, so I can do better now. And our history shows us the vulnerability or the circumstances or the cultural environment at the time, and it allows us to look at how did you navigate through that. So we look at our parents, and we always want to raise our children differently to the way we were raised because we think our parents didn't do this, we didn't do that. But you look at how they were raised and they've gone on one up from where they were raised, right? So it's looking at things as not as the bad, but just where they were in society at that time. And you have so much more compassion and understanding for the choices that were made in that time. And I think by sharing that as I've through my book, I kind of made some apologies to my children, because where I was at that time, I was not capable of being that for them, right? Does that make me a bad mum or a bad woman? No. It just makes a woman that was facing something and then
Mhm.
something got dropped along the side. Did that mean I didn't love? No. And I think sometimes sharing that, like, okay, I didn't realize you were going through that at the time, right? And it makes it you weren't out to get me or abandon me or this or that with me. This is what you're going through. I have more understanding and more passion now. And I think that's so important that when you're writing, whether you're writing for your legacy book, or whether you're writing for your family, or whether you're writing just to be that story of permission to other people that it's okay to drop the ball now and again because you're going to pick it up somewhere else. That inspiration, that begets invitation is so important, isn't it?
It truly is, and you've said some things there that are so profound. And I believe that we have a tendency to think other people are going through what we are going through, or that
Mm,
other people's lives are the same as our lives.
mm,
But we don't have that window into other people's
right.
lives. And that is why connection with other human beings makes all the difference. And
Yes.
if you knew that person who is being salty in front of you had just, had to visit their very sick child in the hospital or something like that, you would have so much more compassion for the fact that they might be having a rough day because you know what they're going through.
Yeah.
And being able to use our stories to give people a window into our lives, I believe will help us to become more compassionate with one another, as you have said.
As a human race, I think,
Yes.
we're so quick to, as a human race, to judge because we haven't taken the time to understand because we assumed, right? Now, if you are willing to listen to someone's story of how, why, and what, and when, then it becomes, oh, I didn't know you were going through that or you were facing that. Gosh, I wish I'd been there for you instead of judging you. Right? I think these kind of books not only are a legacy to the people that we know, they're an education to society as a whole on how to be nicer to one another.
And how people survive, and
Yes.
how people overcome and how people push on. And these are really important themes, in life. And so many people have these stories that they can pass on that will help other people in that way. So that's helping people tell their stories just ended up being something that I have just always done. And I've just fallen into it in another way here.
Yeah.
Uh,
Again,
and
you followed your passion. You know,
I did.
this is your instrument in life, right? You are that conductor, but your experience and everything else that you do, which is, helping students write their essays and, how to prepare and everything, well, everything that we've done in life always leads us up to that point of the passion project. So everything you've done that's prepared you, it was a passion in itself, but now it's that next level. right, as that conductor there. But there is another thing that, yes, okay, we may be talking about, in this instance, we're talking about that legacy piece that you're leaving, that story that can be inspiring. But so many people now, and these are the people I interview, that have gone through some horrors in life that some people should never go through in life, never go through. The fact that they're still standing, never mind now being illuminating for someone else, is extraordinary. But what they've done is they may have shared their story, but they've shared their story also in a tutorial type way that, I face this, but this is what you can do. And it's become their business. So many people were writing business books today. It isn't just now do this, now do this, now do this. It's the story that led to why you should do this and how to do it and what the outcome has come to be. There's a beautiful merge there, isn't there?
Absolutely. And for you to bring that up, one of my clients who just finished their book this year is a home organizer,
Hmm.
right? So she helps declutter people's homes. And she wrote her book in that with that very thing in mind. She was born and raised in the first part of her life in India and then moved to the United States. And what she found is that the simple life that she led when she was in India had some real strengths in it
Mm.
that she didn't find in the more, I wouldn't say complicated, but let's say the consumer driven life that she
Demanding life.
found in the
Yeah,
United States. And so she really uses as the foundation of her business ways to declutter your life, ways to get more simple. And that gives you more time with your loved ones and it gives you more access to your funds. And she used her personal story, comparing these two lifestyles, to be the kind of backup for that. It's an excellent business book because now you not only know that this woman could come into your home and
yeah,
help you simplify your life, but where she's coming from, where she's rooted in, what she's grounded in. It's not going to be something that's going to fix that drawer for a day.
right.
If you really understand that philosophy of life, it could fix your life. And those are
Yeah,
the kinds of transformations that
yes.
business owners are usually looking for.
Well, we all want to know someone's why. Why are you doing this? These are the why shows that I'm doing right here with you. Why are you doing what you're doing? Right? Because you want people to get those stories out there. You want people to feel comfortable. You want people to understand they have a story that's going to be impactful for someone, whether it's going to be that kind of memoir or whether it's going to be my why and how, which is a beautiful trend. All of these type of things still need that structure and that conducting in order to produce forward. Even if you have somebody who's a really good business person, a good business head, how do you make the why and the business come together? Or somebody's got a great why, but I want to introduce the how to on the side. How do I put that together? And this is where you need someone who understands both sides of that and how you can merge them in a way that is fluid and cohesive.
Absolutely. And that's such a strong pull for business folks.
Mm,
The it does several things. So the first thing that it does for them is it gives them a way to re-examine why they're in the business they're in.
yeah,
So a lot of times it reawakens their passion for what they do. The second thing, which might not seem so obvious, is it gives you almost a lifetime's worth of social media posts
yes.
because every page you've thought about why you're doing it. Here's what it fixes. Here's what so you basically have the layout for newsletters and social media
Yes,
posts on every page as you go through the book. So it makes that part of your life easier. And then the third thing, which the client I was just talking about, she said, I start telling people that I'm a published author and they react to me differently.
yeah,
It's as if all of a sudden I was the same person who walked in on Thursday that I am today. And all of a sudden I have more gravitas, right?
yes. Yes, and that really does count in that world. I mean, actually people ask me to write my book because I do my own shows every week. So I've got like 450 shows that I do every week. I've also been a blogger for a long time and I've done several thousand shows already here on this network. And it's like I thought, well, that is my content there. But that's something people can listen to, but where can people read it? Where is it in their hand, or whether they can just download it and listen to it, either at the gym or on a walk or driving home? It's that the storytelling nowadays has taken on a different, mediumship, and this way and that way, but still there's something about the book. And for me, I get people sending me books all the time to read, but when they send them to me in PDF file, I don't get to it as fast as I would as if I had a paperback book in my hand, because there's something again back to that tactile, that being able to turn the page. It's something about that I think that connection to the book, and it could be my age, because I know a lot of people just do the other or the audio books nowadays, and whatever way suits you, as long as we've got people reading, which is important. But there is something about the holding of the book that is great, and I think that yeah, we can tell stories in many different ways, which I do with my own shows every week. But yes, sir, I can't listen to all of your shows to get your story, right? So it's in the book. And it was, at first, it took me years to do it. And then last August, I said, okay, for 3 weeks, I'm not doing any shows. I'm not seeing anybody. I'm not doing anything. In the heat, I'm in my office, and I thought, I'm going to do it this way. And then my fingers started typing. And my fingers wrote it the way they wanted to write it, and now it's just the editing. And I think is something that's really important. You know what you want to say. It's in the subconscious. Don't dictate every sentence. And I think one of the good things for authors is let it all out in the first draft. Let everything out. How many people have said to me, when I read what I wrote, I couldn't believe what I'd just written, because they weren't in dictatorship of what they should write. They were in flow of what needed to be written.
It is very helpful for writers, and I also tell them, don't worry about the spelling, the punctuation, just get
Exactly.
the feelings and the ideas onto the page,
Yes.
right? And there are things that can help us. You had mentioned AI, and it's a tool. It's a
Yes.
tool like anything else.
Yes.
I mean, gunpowder is a tool. It can
Yes.
help people minds, and it can take lives,
Yes.
but
Again,
it's
all
how
back
you
how it's
use the
used.
tool.
Yes. 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 I'm with
Exactly.
you. Yes.
So there are AI tools that people can speak their story
Hmm.
into. It will type it out
Yeah.
for them, and then they'll have that first draft down
Yeah.
that they can then start to edit with. So that I do suggest a lot of times to my writers. And then the other thing, everyone has their own process, right? So some people need to write it with a pen. Some people
Right.
need to type it in
Yeah.
on a typewriter. Some people need to speak it and have the computer then type it out for them. Whatever is going to work for you, that is part of your process, and it's important to discover what that process is. It's one of the reasons why, while I love the build your book, and in 6 months and
Yes.
programs,
Yes.
my life personally, I have a 16-year-old. I don't necessarily have control over what every part of my day is going to look like.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if I could build a whole book in 6 months.
Right.
And at the end of that process, then what do you do? Like, where are you? How are you still supported going forward? And while I think the communities that are built in those programs are very good to help the writers get started
Hmm.
and give comments to one another, you need that further along on your writing
Yeah.
too. And one of my authors, she does trips to Italy, and she asked me this year to do a writing workshop for that very reason, that people can then take the writing that they have, come to the workshop in Italy, because there's nothing wrong with going to Italy. And so while we're eating and enjoying ourselves, we can get feedback from other writers. So,
Yeah.
because you write by yourself,
Yes.
how does someone else react to the words that you've put on the page?
Hmm.
And being able to, and workshops are one of my favorite things, because being able to have that feedback from other writers about what worked and didn't work is very helpful for the editing process. And then we're going to do some classes too, to help people with their, elevate their writing skills. And then we're going to go see things and eat things.
But that's the thing is that they're out of their arena. They're, I would love to do, but I've got to take this, I've got to do that, I've got to be this, I've got to be that. No, you are there specifically for this program, for this writing program, and let the ambience of Italy, which is wonderful, by the way, been there many times, let it soak into you. Let it come into because it will take away those inhibitions. It will take away those has tos, and it will kind of introduce or produce the desire to. And book clubs. I have a friend who's very heavily into book clubs, but I talk to people about podcast clubs of listening to a podcast and then coming together and share what you got out of it. And people will all get something different. And it just broadens that whole perception of that podcast. Well, what you're doing is the same thing, is the sharing of the writing and somebody asking you a question. I hadn't thought about that. Or I could put that in that. Or yeah, you're right, that should come out. Or what do you mean by that? You need to clarify. And it's just allowing your work to be honed in, to be seen, to be heard, to be received before putting it right out there.
Absolutely. And many writers have gone abroad to write, to hone their inspiration.
Yeah.
Right.
Or in a little cottage somewhere, away from other people.
So there are people but when you're going to the little cottage, you're going to write.
Yes.
When you're collecting the inspiration, you're doing something else. There's a writer, Chimamanda Adichie. She's a famous African writer, and she has talked about the fact that when she is in her homeland and she's in her country, like that's when she's soaking up all the inspiration. And then she goes to her house in the US to write, because then she's away from those other things.
Right.
So I also think that by taking people to Italy out of their normal everyday life, you're going to shift your perspective.
Yeah.
Right. You're going to begin to see things differently, hear things differently, move through the day in a different way. When you shift your perspective, that helps you be able to solve different problems, come up with different ways of explaining things, reach different parts of yourself, and stretch yourself outside of your comfort zone. All of those things are great for writing.
Very great for writing. My brother is an author, and he was master's level literary teacher in various universities in England. But he goes to see some friends in France every year. And every time he goes there, there's something about it that inspires him to the idea of the book. Everything kind of downloads to him there. And then he comes back and then he's very dutiful in the way that he writes. Now, I kind of thought as a person who's a professor, very, very, very disciplined on his writing, and that when I wrote mine, I was about to get a whole load of criticism because I am completely opposite flow. And it's been very good critique. But he's never kind of questioned my content, just sometimes repetitive or this or that, because I was going to do it as each story separately. And then it kind of fell into falling together. So some things have to be rewritten. But it's, I think the interesting thing is we're so scared of what other people may say. If they're reading something they may not know about you, are they going to pick out the things because that they're going to criticize you on? Are they going to get what you say? Because really they are the engineering person, and you're writing something like this, and are they just going to go ugh? All of those type of things that get in the way. But it is write it, get it to that level where other people can read it, and then don't take it personally. Whatever critique or opinion comes your way, don't take it personally. That's how the other people are receiving it from who they are, right? But don't take it personally.
It's vulnerable.
Yes.
This process of writing. You've put your ideas and your thoughts on the page. And once you've spoken them out into the world, and more permanently put it on a page which is in front of them that they can quote exactly because it's on a page, both things will happen. people will quote you because they will it's something that you say will resonate. They'll be underlined or highlighted. They'll turn it into one of those little infographics, or and they'll post it so it gets shared above and beyond. It has a life above and beyond what you've
Yes.
written when you connect with people. But there are people for whom it won't connect with.
No.
And we have all experienced that. Your friend says, this book is so great. And you're on chapter 10 and you're like, I don't think I can read any more of it because it's
Right.
really not great. It just means you're not connecting with it. And the thing that more kindness in our approach to one another would do would just show us that just because you don't connect to a thing doesn't mean the thing is not good. It
Exactly.
isn't the thing for you.
Right.
And that is where you need to step off until you get that life experience or one that's similar, and you start to understand, and that's how we can come back to things that our parents said, oh, this is great. And we're like, you're young, you read it, you don't get it. Then you have that life experience. You
Yeah.
come back to that and you're understanding all of a sudden it in such a different way because you have a different set of experiences that give you a different perspective.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because two of my girls have been kind of reading it here and there. My one daughter, well, what is this? What is that? What is this? What is that? Like who is it for? Blah, 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 blah. And she's really about the structure. And then the other one, you haven't said enough about this, Mum. You need to say more about this, Mum. And don't apologize. You've been way too kind to that person. So it's two utterly, totally different perspectives. And both are valid to a point, right? So yes, I added a bit more content. The other structural side of it, I get the point, of what you are looking for. So just because sometimes it may not be your cup of tea or your forte, they all have valid points, right? And it's like, how can you adjust to that without feeling, oh, I'll throw it all up in the air. I can't do this anymore, which we all go through at some point.
And if it's great for your ideal reader, that's why we have an ideal reader. We can go as an editor, and I can look at someone's work that they've given me and I've said, this is spot on to who it is you're trying to reach.
Right.
But this part I'm a little confused about. And how does it reach this person? And when you start to fix those pieces
Yes.
of it, you do the thing that your daughters are doing, which is
Mm.
to put it back in focus,
Yeah.
give it some structure, add the things that need to be added, maybe take out some of the things like your brother said maybe were
Yes.
repetitive.
Yeah.
Those kinds of critiques are done with love and they're helpful because they give you a chance to look at the work.
A
But in the end,
constructive.
you are going to look
Yeah.
at the work.
Yeah.
And I always say that what I give to my writers are suggestions. They're suggestions based on who I am and what I'm bringing to this work.
Right.
They don't feel that that suggestion resonates with them, then that's probably not a change they want to make. But
Right.
if they look at a suggestion and I'm sure you've had this experience and you go, oh my goodness, I
Yes.
did that. And it made this is what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
This is right. Those are the
Yes.
kinds of suggestions, right, that allow you as the author, because you're the author, you're always going to make that final decision. But if you get more of those suggestions that bring you to what you really want to say, that's a good journey.
Yes, exactly. And I think, the other thing that's happened, especially with me, is like, I've been around certain people and we've had memories. Do you remember this? Do you remember that? And saying, well, is that in the book? And it's like, well, that should be in the book, and then you can add it, but you've got to be careful when you're doing that, that suddenly it doesn't throw things out of contents, right? And just because you're remembering A, B, C, and D doesn't mean the whole alphabet needs to be in there. Is it in alignment with what you're trying to say overall? Right? You've got to remember what's your overall message here. And although we think, well, that would be good to put in and that would be good to make, but has it suddenly being the triangle in the orchestra is in the wrong place?
Or spices are wonderful and they help you make a delicious dish. But if you put in too much, you're going to ruin it.
Yes.
So it's what you need in the right measure
Yeah.
to get that
Mm.
that delicious dish that you're trying to create.
And my daughter asked, "Who's my audience?" And I said, "Well, I have been requested by the people I interview and the people that listen, where's your book, Sarah?" So clearly, this is my audience. So I can't be anyone else other than who I am, right? And so the way I've written this is Sarah. It isn't anybody else. It's not my brother. It's not anyone else. They're all better writers, but I've written it as I speak, coming from Sarah. If I did anything else, it wouldn't be me. It wouldn't be representing me. So then it would be a fraudulent part of me. And that can then shatter the way they receive you on every other level. Is everything else a fraud? So it's really, really important that who you are, whether it is that storytelling business book or whether it is your story, your memoir, or just even again back to that factional book where you're taking stories that have happened to you, but you've decided to make it into a different character and different names and different places. Where is the honesty in there? That is the thread that always people know they can identify with. That identity you cannot lose.
If it's true with so many things, when we meet someone, excuse me, when we meet someone and they're just so authentically and genuinely what we would say down to earth here,
Mhm.
right? They're grounded, they're rooted. You just feel like you are getting their true
Mm.
self. That's a warm and wonderful experience. And you will I find myself drawn to people like that.
Mhm.
I believe that that authenticity does draw people in because even if you haven't had that person's experiences, you can feel
Yeah.
in them the truth of the
And
experience.
the truth of who they are.
Correct.
Yeah.
And and truth is powerful,
Yes.
so that staying true to who you are and how you say things is why I'm just such a proponent of people writing their own books if they can, because it will really keep that voice of who they are on every page, and it should be on every page.
Yeah. Don't write in the perception of you're pleasing somebody, or that they'll only read this, or they're only interested in this. Again, if it doesn't come from who you are, the heart and soul of you, the spirit and where you live your life, if it doesn't come from that, then people are reading words, but they're not, again, back to the word connection. Are you
Mhm.
sure you wrote this? This isn't, yeah, you say this is your life, but I don't feel the connection here because you've written the expectation book, not the truth book. And especially in today's environment, we want truth book. We know we've been given this whole thing entire lives for generations and thousands of years of who we should be, how we should live our life, our little box that we're meant to go into, the expectation. Where has it led us as a human race? It's led us disconnected from ourselves because life is an inside out job, not an outside in. And we're desperately seeking the truth of who we are, why we are, and what we're here to do. And when we read those books of other people who've made that discovery, that self-discovery of who they are, and they've shared that out with other people, it's an illumination, it's an invitation, and the exploration of their own life starts coming into play. So never underestimate the power of your story.
Absolutely. And the one of the most exciting things that's happened with technology is the self-publishing industry.
Mhm.
It used to be that you would have to publish, 10,
Yes.
a run of 10,000 books
Yep.
before you could self-publish. So you really, to afford it, if you weren't independently wealthy, would have to go through a publisher.
Yes.
If you go through a publisher, there's somebody who is going to read your work and decide whether or not it's worthy.
Yeah.
We don't have that when we self publish. When we self publish, we know that our story is worthy. We don't need someone else to tell us that our
Yeah.
story is worthy. Although most people have already told you your
Yes.
story is worthy, write
Yes.
it, write it,
You've
write it.
been you've been through the process, right? So that when you're putting it out as a person individually, you've got the reins as deciding where this book is going. right? There isn't somebody else with a different opinion. I mean, how many stories have we looked at? Oh gosh, gone completely blank. It's enormous, but Little Women, you
Okay,
know,
yes.
her story of being rejected, and it
Louisa May Alcott.
exactly. So, as far as the story goes, is that the publisher ignored it, but the kids wrote it. What's the next chapter? What's the next chapter? And he realized, well, there is an audience. And we've got to realize that sometimes those people that are reading those books when deciding where they're going to be published are reading it from their space, not
They're
reading it
not
from
the ideal
they're
reader.
not the ideal reader, but they're the gatekeepers and they're going to decide whether it's going to go through or not. And it all depends, are they trained to be broader minded and to understand, okay, I'm not my cup of tea, but I know that's going to be served this audience and serve that audience, right? And you're at that gate waiting for someone to go approval. When you self-publish and you've done it through someone like you who's giving you the guidance, the ideas, the structure to put it all together. It's that musical piece that's about to be launched. Everybody's come to the to the audience and they're just waiting for that piece to take them, right? But if all the musical ideas were still scattered and not put together, it's going to be disjointed and disconnected. So you help them put it all together from that first orchestral piece of music that goes out right to the end of it. It's telling a story, and that's how you want the book to be. So yes, self-publish. Absolutely. You're in control, whether it's an ebook, a paperback book, an audio book. And of course, AI can do your audio now. They can take your own voice and do your audio, right? So
But it will still not yet be,
100%.
I mean, it won't be the real thing.
No.
And I say this in that I if you love to read and you can immerse yourself in a story, you
Yes.
can lose yourself in anything, right?
Yes.
Um, I think one of our first experiences with AI on the big screen was I think Steven Spielberg did the stories about I can't remember what there's like these blue people with tails and they fly.
Oh,
Um,
Avatar. That was James
yes,
Cameron.
Avatar,
James Cameron.
James Cameron.
Yeah.
So um, the actors are doing the acting, they're in
Yes.
these suits, but what you see is this computer
Yeah.
generated model. It's neat. It's
Yeah.
very cool, but we know it's not
Yeah.
it's not so we can still
Yeah.
enjoy what it creates, but if you want that real connection, then you really do have to jump out of that and be vulnerable.
Yes.
And I would say if anyone is looking to write their book, the most important thing they can do is get themselves a team together to support them. They will want someone to be an accountability partner. They'll
Yeah.
need a cheerleader. They'll need someone to help guide them if they have a tough time or just questions that need to be answered. Then they need people who will understand the process that happens after that book is written.
Yes.
There's a alpha set of readers, there's a beta set of readers.
Yes.
What do you do with the editing after you hit your alpha and your beta readers? Then there's the pre-publishing, there's the publishing, there's the marketing, because now you have gone from being a creative
Yeah.
to being a business person.
Yes.
I'm not a business person, say the creatives, but you have something you are selling. It is a thing that you can put your hands on or you can download
Yeah.
digitally. You have created a product. You are selling that product. You are now a business person. And a lot of people will be like, well, I'm going to deal with that later. But I would encourage you to get that team together with you now as you are getting yourself started. Because I know I've learned from life that the sooner you come into a project, the
Yeah.
sooner you come into that project, if you see, oh no, sweetheart, that's not the flour, that's the salt. You
Mm.
can
Mm.
make the end product not have that thing happen that you might have to go back and see how you can fix that later.
Yeah.
You can fix it as you go along. But you don't have to know everything and you cannot know
No.
everything.
No.
So sure to look for that team around you that can help you.
Yes. Yes, I've got it in the most unusual ways. And it's like with a book cover, I was designing this and that. And it was even with the title, there were several titles but it wasn't like, I know simply you've got to have the title, you've got to have the chapter headlines, you've got to have all of this before you start writing. And, for me, that was just, no, that wasn't allowing my flow. Right. And so it was afterwards, the title is there, and
Mhm.
then I had an idea for a book cover, but my son-in-law is very creative in this way. He used to be a graphic designer, and he created a book cover for me that kind of said everything. And it's different, it's unusual, which of course I wanted because I'm not mainstream. And that's the important thing, I think, is that having people around you that can take the essence of who you are and in their own expertise highlight that and put it, in place. So again, it's back to those pieces of puzzle. You've written the book. There's all the story. You've put it together now as a book, but there's the book cover, right? There is have you got a publicist to put you on all those podcasts? Because I interview book authors all the time, right? Have you got a marketing strategist to help you get your book out there, right? And number one bestseller on Amazon isn't always a big thing, right? Because a lot of people can get there. It is, how are you going to present yourself? Because when soon as somebody says bestseller, 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 it's like it's oversaturated. So, what's unique about your book that is the catchphrase that's going to be something you'll use consistently? What you talked about, that somebody captures the phrase and then they adopt it and they start talking about it. So, all of those things you need of those external ideas that then hone in the whole package. Right. And then you've got to be ready. You've got to be ready to talk about your book on those podcasts. You've got to be ready for that marketing. You've got to be ready for that. You've got now at least 6 months from the time your book is out to get out there and do all the publication that you need to do. And maybe longer, depending on the book itself, but at least 6 months. And so you've got to understand it's not just about writing the book, it's where the book's going after that.
Yes, because you have to then reach your audience. And
Yeah.
again, that really makes you a salesperson, a business person who is selling a product. And that is why I love to have, my authors try and start to understand what those business elements are and not just outright reject them.
Yes.
Because if you know that along the way, if the marketing person knows along the way that you really have a connection with a celebrity,
Yeah.
you could see if there's a chapter that the celebrity would resonate with. You could
Mm.
send them that chapter to read. If they really liked that chapter, they might write a
An
blurb for the back
endorsement.
of your book.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you want that to be going on long before you
Yes.
get to the end.
Yeah.
And that's a lot to think about as an author when you're trying to stay focused. So that's why a
Yeah.
team is really helpful. Yes, some people can do it all and some people want to do it all,
Yeah.
but most of us could use a little help.
I guarantee folks you need the help. I would not be, I did put it on the back burner. A lot of it is I'm working. I do anything from 4 to 8 shows, and my daughter had another baby, and I'm very immersed in my grandsons. And it's for me, when I do that type of thing, I need to block the time off and focus. And really get into it. I can't do piecemeal because the thought process isn't there. And I'm lucky enough that my family have all their own expertise that can help me with this. And I needed that because it also got to be, this is too much, too inundating. Do I give up? Do I just put it out as it is? And you need that help. I promise you folks, you need that help. And you've also got to understand that once you've written it, yes, you're on podcasts. Different podcasts are going to ask you different questions, are going to have a different opinion on it for a different audience. But it's always staying true to the core of why you wrote the book and what that book was about. That no matter what the question is, it's always coming from here, the core of who you are, and you're not then kind of trying to find a different audience with that podcast or a different audience. Yes, you're looking for broad an audience, but don't start discombobulating yourself, right? Always make sure that the cohesive message is there. And the more you do it, the better you get at it.
And the other thing that you said is so true is it speaks again to that process
Mm.
of you were talking about needing time. Like
Yes.
if I'm writing, I need 2.5 hour to 3 hour blocks
Yes.
because when it takes me a while to get into the writing. It might take me 20 minutes to get in,
Mm.
really in. And if I'm starting and stopping, I'm not
Yes.
really
You're not in
getting
flow.
to the,
Yeah.
but everyone's different, right?
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that people are doing the process that works for
For
them.
them.
And you don't have to know that at the start. But if
No.
you have someone who's helping you track what worked and what didn't work,
Right.
you'll get there a little bit faster. And I've had authors do different things, but one of my authors was a chef. He has a company in Atlanta where he does catering. So he's writing a book, and we were talking about what do you want to do with this book? And he said, well, you know, I could find a major publisher and publish it all over. And I said, what's your budget looking like? And he told me what his budget was looking like. And I said, well, what would work better for you? Having a book that sells over the whole country or having your book be like the top book in your town of Atlanta where your business is,
Right.
that where you're on every radio show, every
Yes.
podcast, all the
Mm.
newspapers in your town. And he was like, well, that is the thing that would most help my business. So
Exactly. Mm.
his goal wouldn't be to be the Amazon bestseller
Right.
because he has a
A
catering
niche.
business
Mm.
in a town.
Yes.
So his goal is to be that person. So then if he spends his dollars that way, he's going to get the most return for what he wants. And that is why you really need to figure out what your dream is for your book
Yeah.
and follow follow what's going to be best for what's true for you at the time.
Yeah. You got to look at what's the end goal, right? The end goal of what it is. Um,
Mhm.
is it for, for me, it's like people say, how many people listen to your podcast? And I go, all those that are ready to listen. Right. And I have no control once these podcasts are out there. They're on umpteen platforms. They're on 20 platforms where people can listen to them, 4 sites and all of that. And people are going to pick a show that resonates. Oh, that sounds interesting. Or, oh, well, the title of that, I need to hear that right now. I have no control of who's going to pick it up. Like you have no control, no matter amount of advertising, who's going to buy your book. It's people that resonate with it. So the book cover, and I'm very anti-black. Sorry, folks. Black with red writing. I'm very anti. It just kind of irks me. I like books that really the book cover is already intriguing and you bring it out and I like to open up to a page and there's something on that page that speaks to me and I go, oh, I want to know more about this book, right? And you want to be invitational. So all those that need to read your book are there going to be the people that will pick up your book and read it? Don't try and fit one size fits all of this is for everyone. Uh, I certainly know there's going to be many people that will never pick up my book because of who I am. I'm not everybody's cup of tea, so why should I think that everybody's going to read the book? People who resonate with me will be the people that will pick up the book. Be okay with it. Be okay. You don't have to be the number one bestseller. You don't have to be on every newspaper, all of that. If people have picked up your book and somebody gets back to you and says that this for me or that does that for me, one person, that one person is better off for your book than before. So don't get caught up with the numbers game or the popularity game, or it's got to reach this in order to count. No, you just need to change one person's life. You will change more than that, but one person's life.
You will change more than that
Yes.
because we are in communities. And when you have something that works for you and you have
Yes.
someone who's in need, you're going to show them this thing that you have. So
Yes. Share, share,
it's
share.
always going to go. Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes. Absolutely. Because, it's the old picket fence thing. Have you read this book? Have you heard this person? Have you this and that? Oh God, they wrote this, they wrote that, or in the conversation, I just read a passage in a book and it did this for me. What book is that? Where do I get it? Right?
Mhm.
Immediate, that is the best marketing you can find. But what your first 6 months is capturing that reading audience so that they keep the momentum going after that kind of big publicity stuff that you do in the beginning, right?
Correct, correct. And so much of that work can be done by other people while you're still writing. You don't
Exactly.
have to be finished for the groundwork to be laid.
There's another thing that somebody pointed out, which I think is a really great idea. You're talking about getting everything ready, but it is knowing your launch date, but advertising your book before it comes out,
Absolutely,
getting everybody
absolutely.
knowing what's coming, a snippet from a chapter, a this or that, build up the anticipation from it, so that when it finally is here, on your social media, the book is launched, you can now buy it from here. People have had, they've had the sample and now they're ready to do it instead of just launching the book and they go, what's this? Right? The tease. We all love the tease. That's why, movies do what's coming next or what's upcoming. It's important. Now, of course, you do this for adults or anybody who wants to write a book, but you also have this wonderful whole program, for kids who are writing essays. The whole thing about helping them write that essay that counts. The one that really is not only going to open other doors for them at universities or anything, but that really is not just I got to get this essay out because I need an A or a B or whatever, but something that really they're proud of, that there's substance to it. You've got this whole program going on, the college essay writing course. Would you tell us about that?
Well, I don't know exactly how it works in the UK, but in the United States, as part of the application process to a higher education university, usually the ones that are very competitive will ask you to write an essay.
Hmm.
That essay will be used to help decide whether or not you get to come to campus.
Mm.
Uh, I think that as parents get a little bit more educated about how that process works, yes, you have your grades. Yes, you have, your class rank. Yes, you have your sporting event that you might do or your uh, work that you do. None of those things tells them who you are.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
numbers, and so this is your opportunity. You can have the same numbers as 1,000 other people, the
Hmm.
same test scores, GPAs, class ranks. This is the same number of extracurricular activities. So how do you pull apart what's
Mm.
different from all of those people? You do it by telling your story.
Yeah.
So when I spent a lot of time, as you do in your neighborhood, your neighbors know what you do. They know
Hmm.
that you're right. When all my neighbors' kids were getting ready to go to college, they'd always come over and I'd work with them. So that's how I started putting this together. Plus, I also worked as a, a professor at a college, and I worked on those first writing classes, like how to write. What we're doing in this program is running in 4 weeks. They're going to write 2 essays that they can use for those college applications. And my goal for them is to make it as stress free as
Yes.
possible.
And
It doesn't
honest,
have to be
honest as
hard and
possible too,
difficult.
right?
Well,
Because I mean,
yeah.
it again, you're talking about the scores for everything else, the same as Joe George blogs and everybody else, but how do they stand out? So really it is back to the why. Why are they coming to college? Why do they want to take this degree? What is so important about it that that where they want to go in life? And if they don't show that projection, it just feels like they just want to go to college to have a good time. But when they see somebody who really is passionate about what they want to learn and why they want to learn it, it's like, this is somebody that really can take this degree somewhere. And that's what makes them stand out.
So the window in here is usually the turn. People can say, "Oh, I did this, and I
Yeah.
did this in my story." That's not what they want to know.
No.
They want to know this thing happened to you. How are you changed? How are
Yes.
you a different person? How does that motivate you now? So you could write that, you want to become an auto mechanic. That's great. You could go to a trade school. Why do you want to go
Mm.
to a college for this? And then that person could explain, my most important reason for doing this is because, my cousin has always had to drive with, all of these different tools because he can't use his legs.
Mm.
And so my thing is I want to work with the engineering of cars because they're not engineered in a way that makes it safe for people who have certain disabilities. And I want
Right.
to engineer those cars different. And here's the personal experience that made me like,
Yeah.
I saw how hard it was for them. I
Mm.
saw how much more work they have to do just to make a left turn. I am
Mm.
changing that. That mattered to me. When they see the behind the scenes
Yes.
story of how you got there,
Yeah.
then you're telling your personal story. Not so much the what,
Yes.
but more of the
The
why and
why.
the yeah.
We always want to know the why. I mean, we look at people and, yeah, so what? You can do this and do that, but why?
Mhm.
Why? And so many people have got to that stage in their life, well, just because I can. Is that a good enough why? And that's when they kind of look at their own lives and go, well, just because I can, does that mean I should? What really is my driving force? So many people I've interviewed of 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s have looked at their lives and go, I have lived that life of expectation because I could do that. I was good at that. But there was always this thing knocking up the door that of something I wanted to do. Now you kind of fell into it through the demand of other people, right? And it's led you out on this path. And then now that path is expanded to even more stories. It's where for you the passion of the story is the core, is the thread of who you are, right? The making sure people's stories are told. And when you understand what that thread is, then you go, okay, all that I've done before is experience. And this experience can be reconstructed to match the core passion to doing something. But we want to know there's a passion and a reason behind it because it
Right.
is that passion and that reason that's going to take you through the hard times, is going to take you through the for the obstacles that you thought you never could do. It's going to be your driving force to actually make it to the end. And
Absolutely.
if you don't have that, it'll be too easy to give up. And they don't want people who are going to give up. They want people that are going to come out to that end and be that difference in somebody else's life.
And it's also a business,
Yes.
right? So as if they're picking people who are in the right place, in the right school, in the right environment, those people are more likely to finish. Then they're going to stand up and say, we graduate,
Yeah.
more people. Um, so there is a heartfelt reason to do it, but
Yeah.
there's also a business line behind
Yes.
it as well. And
Whom does it
and
serve?
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the the thing, I guess, is the math of it is you're going to have very many people who have the same mathematical numbers that you do, but you will not have anyone who has the same personal experience that you
Yeah.
do. And that's how you can set yourself apart.
And those personal experiences, what sets us all apart. And those personal experiences is what we use on our path in life that can redirect us, that can stop us in our tracks, that can propel us forward in in something that we love to do. But the bottom line is when you're doing it again from the heart, from the passion, from the reason, it's your driving force.
Mhm.
Then you know that all you are needing to do is learn the proper tools and skills to make sure that driving force meets its end. And that's the same with the story. Why do you want to get the story out? Because it's a story that needs to be told. How are you going to get this story out? First, lay it all out, and then you come along to help them. Let's structure it here. Let's hone it in. Let's bring this one up. Let's take that one down. Let's delete that and put it together as that beautiful orchestral piece that then is ready for that next stage of here it is, folks. Right? So
So all of those things that I do, they're all telling people stories.
yes.
It's the core of everything that I do. I had someone say, well, why are you going to do that? That's a totally different. And I looked at it and I said, it's not
Yep.
totally different. It is the
Another version, another
if I was
musical
doing
piece.
test prep,
Yes.
that would be totally different.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm not doing test prep.
Right.
If I was doing, tutoring for their grammar, that would be totally
Right.
different. But I'm just helping them do the same thing I'd help everyone do, which is to tell their story.
Whether it's an essay of so many pages or whether it's a book of so many pages, it's short story or elongated story. And quite honestly, a book today, A book could be 100 pages or 500 pages. It really depends on what the story is, and as long as the flow and the content and the engagement is there, right? So there isn't this status quo in the industry anymore. It's got to be this, it's got to be that, it's got to be so many hundred words and all of that. No, it is the words that you want to put on paper that make sense, that is engaging, and that's going to have an impact.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think,
Yeah.
when we find that passion, when we find that like that you've always had the passion for the words and the storytelling, and you all you've done is in your orchestra is just created different music for different audience, right? So whether it's the essay audience or the book audience, um, the people that are even on the edge are like, could I create a piece like that? It's when people go, I want to try. What does it entail? Then this is when they need to reach out to you and go, is it, I think I've got a story here. And then you're able to go, yes, this is how we put it together. And then when that person has got that, okay, that's how I can do it. This is what I need to do. The intimidation is knowing that you've got to do the whole alphabet before the book comes out. And it can be so, off-putting for people because they're scared of it. When you know the steps, then it's like, okay, I can do that one step at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Just the one step at a time, because you know what's expected, you know what's next, you know what you have to do, and it's easier to hone into the process without being intimidated.
It's 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 funny because people compare the whole process to, birthing a child.
Hmm.
But I think it's very different because you have so much more control over the parts of the
Yeah.
process than you do over the parenting process.
Yes.
And you have the opportunity to make this particular piece of creation that you are putting together be truly representative of what your idea or your
Yeah.
your your idea is for it. And so I just I don't want people to think it's that kind of difficult, because
Right.
it is time consuming. Anything that you are going to be this proud of,
Yeah.
you're going to have put this much work into.
Yes. Yes. I think the important thing is to understand that we need the stories out there. They are the the guidance, the illumination, the permission for other people, right? The more stories we have out there of people that have stepped, basic what it is, it's empowerment. Is that other people have dictated my story for so much of my life. I'm now in control of the pen. I'm in control of the canvas. This is my voice that is out there. And that voice in itself, no matter what it's got to say, is so empowering because it's your voice. You take ownership for it. Everything that you put out there comes from you. It's not somebody else. You're not telling them what to write. You're just telling them how to write it in a way that is going to be received better, right? The structure of it. And that empowerment of taking our lives back. This may have happened to me. I didn't have control. I have very much the control of what I do with it and who I am today because of it. And that's the
Absolutely.
empowerment we need to see out there in the world, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's
So
very true.
people are interested whether they've got the kids that are writing the essay to get into that perfect college. Um, and I think on the other side of the thing, even a kid writing this essay may not get into the college of their choice. The actual getting the content down of the actual passion of why they want to do it, they may go, that college isn't the thing for me. I could do this more locally. I could do this with this organization. I could do this with that. I think that them writing that essay, whether it opens the door or not, because there's never any guarantee because they only have so many people in each college, but it could be, I've got it down there of why I can take this and present it in a different arena, but having that down, that solidification of your why, I think is very powerful than for anything else they do in life or wherever they take it. But for those that have gone for the experience of life, and now they're wanting to kind of share that for the benefit of others, I mean, that empowerment of who we are, why we are, it's it's our way of standing tall, isn't it, in our own lives? It's
It
standing tall
is.
and inviting others, whether you're going to share your story as a blog or as a whole book, but it's standing up and owning your story and owning the choices that you make today because you can, and how impactful and empowering and how wondrous that is in making your own choice, despite whatever elements may be on the outside.
Absolutely. And that thing you were saying about young people a lot of times are taught that talking about themselves is bragging.
Yes.
And then as soon as they graduate, they're supposed to walk into the boss's office and talk about themselves. And they've had zero practice at it because they've
Yes,
been practicing not talking about themselves.
exactly.
So this is their first really deep
Mm.
entree into how it is you present your story in a way that someone else will see who you are and why you should be on their team.
Yes,
It's not
yes.
just like pick me, but it is that it's a corporate version of pick me. And
And
this,
life is about
mhm,
business too, isn't it?
yes,
We've
yes, it
all at
is.
some point, I don't care if I don't want to go into business, I'm not in business. Everything has a business component to it. So the more you're prepared to meet that business on any level, the better you are on your journey of life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it gives them the permission in a safe place to tell that story
Yeah,
where they are with other students who are still telling that story, so they're not going to be chided for
yeah,
talking about themselves, right?
yes,
So that's why the group atmosphere, I think, in this case is very helpful to them, because it gives them permission to really own their story and talk about their story from a place of it being a good thing.
yeah, exactly. And as you said, there is the scare of narcissism because it's so absolutely, you know, uh, rampant at the present moment. But there is that fine line between I'm all that. Narcissism is um, me, I at the expense of anyone else. I don't care who I hurt or who I harm or who has to suffer as long as I've got it's all about me. But stepping into your own empowerment, your own self-discovery, stepping into your own presence is essential, not only to the well-being of your life, but into everything that you're going to do in life. But when you're doing it, this is me. I'm proud of who I am and everything I stand for because it's what I am contributing to the whole. A narcissist doesn't contribute anything, right? A bragger doesn't contribute anything. They're another level of narcissism. But when you can stand tall in your own life and say, this is my contribution into the whole, so the whole can grow as an essence for everyone, stand tall, stand tall. Talk about what you do. Do it with pride, right?
But and the thing too is we're not ever, well, not always telling our young people it's not about saying how great you are,
Right.
because that would be bragging,
Yes.
right? What you're really doing is you are saying who you are and
Mm.
why that is powerful for you.
Yes.
It's internal. It's not an
Yes.
external thing. And there's a difference, but because some places, kind of shut
Mm.
any talk that you have about yourself down. There's not that practice of, yes, well, this is what I learned from this experience I've had. And it doesn't have to be some big experience. They could be taking care of grandma all summer.
Yeah.
But in taking
Exactly.
care of grandma all summer, they discovered, yeah, this is
Mm.
really hard for her to walk up these stairs. I didn't realize that standing in the kitchen is difficult for her. She has to sit down, to cut
Yeah.
everything up. It might open up
Yes.
conversations. It might open up their eyes to other people who struggle, but it's not obvious to them. All of that, those seem like little things, but they're big things when
Yeah.
they change us and they change how we see the world
How
and
we
how
treat
we
the world.
interact with our world. Yes.
Yes. Exactly. And the other aspect of it is slowing down enough to paying attention to grandma's stories. whether it's one sentence or a statement or, kind of bringing up a memory, right?
Right.
Is that you see her differently. You don't see her as the person struggling. You don't see the person that is less than she used to be. You're seeing a person who's had abundance, but
Mhm.
now has these difficulties, which we do as we grow older. And I think, again, the respect, the appreciation, the gratitude, the opening up to wanting to know more, all of that is there. And, it's very easy when you get older to say, slow down. I've become the tortoise instead of the hare, because it isn't about the finish line for me. It's about what do I accumulate along the journey? Whom do I meet? Who inspires? All of that is going in my shell, right? I want to gather all of that. And I think when we're willing to gather that information, it enriches our lives, which then enrich the actions of our lives. So, yeah, pay attention. I think that's what writing does, right? I say this in my coaching practice. When you want to rant and rave at someone, you stop, you go somewhere, you go for a walk, you take the breath, then now write it. Write down everything you feel. Now read it. Do you really want to say that? What is it that you're really trying to say? How can you say it in a way that it isn't the fist in the stomach? And it forces people to look at, well, why do I feel this way? Uh, and then in the end, what you're really trying to say can be heard because of the process. So writing has so many beautiful ways of showing us who we are, why we are, and what we're here to do, and showing the world. So,
Absolutely.
so if people are interested as an adult wanting to write their story, their book, how do they reach you? And again, if they are wanting to get into college, people have kids that are wanting to get into college, what's the process on that? What's the process on both of them?
So all of my information about my business is on LinkedIn. It's my primary site and it's under Donna Knutson. If you are looking to do the essay course, that's under my website. So that would be the www.writejourneys, like JOURNEYS, writejourneys.com. And on LinkedIn, you'll have my email, which is my name, at ymail, not
Right. And
gmail.com.
her name for those that are listening, Donna, Donna, and then Knutson
Correct.
on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and are
And
you
on
on
the
any
website.
and on the website as well?
No, I'm not on too many social media platforms at this particular time because I can do those two regularly.
Mm,
Um, and that's where my people are. So as I
right.
discover other platforms and my people are there, then I will
Yeah.
find my way to see them there.
Yes, I mean that's another thing with when you are promoting a book, folks, I know it's tempting to get on every social media possible. But again, rather like your guy, where do you want it to serve? Your restaurant in your community, not everywhere. It's please remember you need to be interactive. So for me, Facebook and LinkedIn are where I'm absolutely participant and interactive with. Other ones maybe where I post things for you to find, but the interaction is on the other. And remember to be engaging, put out a little bit of what your book or what it is you're writing, invite people to ask questions and be interact. Don't just post it and disappear for a week, right? At that point, you've got to actually understand you need to be there daily for a few minutes and interact because this is part of your marketing platform. But at the same time, you're gathering a tribe of like-vibed people. And you never know where that can go or what that can do. So, again, you have a target market of what you want to reach, but please allow the wonderful experiences that are going to happen along the way.
Absolutely.
This has been a delight. Thank you so much. I've had love talking to you about this, very close to my heart about getting our stories out there. Our stories are our history. They've paved the way for how we do things today. They are the compass, they're the guide of what to and what not to. And if we don't share those stories, what do we have to base on in order to make our decisions? So those stories are very important, whether you're writing to get into a college, or as I said, you don't get into the college, but it opens up other doors for you elsewhere, right? Or whether you're wanting to share your memoir or that business memoir, whatever it is you're wanting to write, it's very, very important that, as you said, have that team around you. And the first person is you. Reach out to
Thank you
you.
so much. I really appreciated talking to you, and I know that your book is going to be fantastic because you're stepping fully as yourself into it,
Mm.
and your fans will be able to go there and find out more about how you became the wonderful person that you are.
Thank you. Thank you. Or not, who knows? I think the other thing is, when we do something, we do it because we really believe in it. We really put ourselves out there, but don't be disappointed if you don't get kind of the reactions you want. Again, you're putting it out there with a lot of love, right? How it's going
Mhm.
to be received is out of your control. So just like our children, when they leave home, white light them, and we hope that we've prepared them for the whole journey they're going to take, and hope that they phone us now and again to let us know they're alive, right?
Also true.
So it's, yes, it is your baby you're putting out there, but at the same time, is you don't know how it's going to be received. And just allow that, don't dictate it, allow it. It's going to take you on a journey that you did not expect.
Very true. Very true.
Thanks.
Self-discovery.
Oh, yes, that's what life's all about. Who am
It
I? Why am
is.
I? Who am I here to serve? And doing what? Right? That's what it's all about. And when you find that, that's when you step in to wanting to know all the skills and tools you need in order to do it. And your story is the impact that you're going to have on others. Short story, long story, business, how to, story. It doesn't matter which way it is. We need the stories. So please, folks, step up. We've all got a story inside of us. Thanks so much, Donna. And to everyone else out there, don't be afraid to step up and start your story. Reach out to Donna, have a conversation with her, know whether there is a fit or not. But just like that first leap that you do in life, it just requires a first step. And when you take that first step, it becomes less intimidating. So until next time, folks, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. There are so many more for you here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. Just go to the podcast tag at the top there and you will see all the many genres and all 3,000 shows ready for your listening. We are here to serve you, to help you on your journey of life, and we know that through inspiration, it begets invitation. We are supported by you, the listeners, and those that we interview. Anything that you can spare us in donation would be greatly accepted, and we do hope that you enjoy the next show.